Inevitably, there are people who get paid more and those who get paid less. Income distribution is the act of reducing the income gap between people. Now, you might be wondering, why do we bother redistributing income? The answer to this is simple. High income inequality can be a barrier to economic growth and development. Firstly, income inequality can cause low demand, which usually hinders economic growth. This is because the rich spend a smaller fraction of their income than the middle class and the poor. For example, Bob, who earns $1 million per year, does not spend all of his income. To be safe, he saves $500,000 per year. That is 50% of income spent. On the other hand, Steve earns $10,000 per year, and he has to spend all of his money to pay for his food, rent, and others. Since increase in demand usually leads to economic growth, we can see how income inequality hinders economic growth. Also, income inequality directly affects the development as it greatly influences the standard of living. For example, the children of Bob will have access to better healthcare and education, which means that his standard of living will be better than Steve's children, who will not have the same access to healthcare and education. If countries want to decrease their income inequality, they must be able to quantitatively record the inequality of income. This is done using the Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient, which is a measurement of the income distribution of a country's residents, varies from 0 to 1. Gini coefficient of 0 represents the perfect equality where everyone has the same income, and Gini coefficient of 1 represents the perfect inequality. Gini coefficient can be calculated by drawing a Lorenz curve, which is a graphical representation of the distribution of wealth or income. It compares the cumulative percentage of population against the cumulative percentage of total income. For example, this graph shows that the bottom 50% of people have around 30% of total income, whereas the top 50% of people have around 70% of the total income, which shows the degree of income inequality in a country. From this, we can see that the steeper Lorenz curve means more income inequality. The Gini coefficient is calculated by dividing the area under Lorenz curve over the total area under the line of equality, which represents a perfect equality of income. Let's see what are the countries with highest and lowest Gini coefficient. These 5 countries have the lowest Gini coefficient, which are Ukraine, Slovenia, Norway, Belarus, Czech Republic. And these are 5 countries with highest Gini coefficient, thus highest income inequalities. As you may have noticed from this graph, low Gini coefficient does not always mean high development, as Ukraine's Human Development Index is only 0.747, which is the 81st. Therefore, we can conclude that although low income inequality causes high development, it may not always be the same. Now that we can measure the degree of inequality, how can we fix it? Although there are different methods of fixing the income inequality, implementation of progressive tax, which is a tax in which the tax rate increases as the taxable amount increases, and transfer payments would benefit the society the most. The result of this would be that the rich will have to pay more tax, and the poor will not only pay less tax, but receive more access to healthcare and education, which would improve people's standard of living.
Created using Powtoon.